Commander Zot Varric of the Galactic Union hated Mondays. Not that the concept of Monday existed in the standardized galactic calendar, but today felt like what humans called a Monday. His six-fingered hand clutched the datapad so tightly that his knuckles turned a pale shade of blue. "What do you mean she's still alive?" he growled, staring at Lieutenant Pax, whose antenna drooped in response. We saw the explosion. The entire mining station was vaporized. The surveillance drones picked up her life signature on Nexus 9, Pax mumbled, clearly wishing to be anywhere but here. "It's definitely her. Our facial recognition is 99.8% certain." Zot Varric slammed the datapad onto his desk. "That's impossible. No human could have survived that blast. We calculated the force it would have turned even a Krogorian war beast to atoms. Yet she walks," Pax said simply. The commander stood up, his imposing 7-foot frame casting a shadow over his subordinate, Jade Parker. The most troublesome human in 3 sectors. I thought we were finally rid of her. "There's more, sir." Pax hesitated, his breathing apparatus making a faint whistling sound that Zot Varric knew indicated anxiety. "She's not alone anymore." "What do you mean?" "She's with them. The Vorgath." Zot Varric felt his 3 hearts skip simultaneously. "The apex predators? That's not possible. The Vorgath eat sentient beings for breakfast. Literally." "Yep. The footage doesn't lie, sir. Would you like to see it?" Without waiting for an answer, Pax activated the holoprojector on the commander's desk. A 3-dimensional image flickered to life, showing a human female with short, copper-colored hair walking confidently through what appeared to be a trading outpost on Nexus 9. Beside her, 2 enormous creatures prowled. They resembled Earth tigers, but with slate-gray skin, 6 legs, and cranial ridges that glowed with bioluminescent blue patterns. Vorgath, the most feared predators in the known galaxy, and they were following the human like pets. "Turn it off," Zot Varric muttered, sinking back into his chair. "This changes everything." "Should we alert the Council?" Pax asked. "And tell them what? That the human we tried to assassinate didn't die and is now commanding creatures that have devoured half the Council's security forces over the last decade?" Zot Varric laughed bitterly. "No, we handle this ourselves. Quietly. But sir, the protocols. To hell with protocols. Do you have any idea what the Vorgath are capable of? They hunted the Klees to extinction, and the Klees had plasma cannons growing out of their foreheads." The commander's voice dropped to a whisper. "If humans can control them, the balance of power in the galaxy would shift overnight." Pax's antennae twitched nervously. "What are your orders, sir?" Zot Varric stared out the viewport at the stars. "Find her. Bring her to me. Alive this time." Across the galaxy on the dusty trading outpost of Nexus 9, Jade Parker was having the time of her life. The looks on the aliens' faces as she strolled through the marketplace with Rex and Nova at her heels. Priceless. "Wets? You know," she said conversationally to Rex, the larger of her 2 Vorgath companions, "I never thought I'd see a Zentari actually faint. Their exoskeletons usually keep them upright even when unconscious." Rex rumbled something that might have been agreement, his 6 clawed feet making soft, clicking sounds on the metal floor plates. Nova, the female Vorgath, nudged Jade's hand with her massive head. The creature stood as tall as Jade's shoulder, which meant she could easily bite Jade's head off if she wanted to. Instead, Nova purred a sound like distant thunder that made the nearby stall owners back away in terror. "Yes, I know you are hungry," Jade said, scratching Nova behind one of her sensory ridges. "We will get food soon." A voice called out from behind her. "Human. How are you doing this?" Jade turned to see a Phylaxian merchant, his 4 eyes wide with a mixture of fear and curiosity. His shop sold exotic meats, exactly what she had been looking for. "Doing what?" Jade asked innocently, approaching his stall with Rex and Nova padding alongside her. The Phylaxian's lower set of eyes kept darting nervously to the Vorgath, controlling them. Everyone knows Vorgath can't be tamed. They have eaten explorers on 17 different planets. Jade leaned against the counter, enjoying the way the merchant flinched when Nova sniffed at the displayed meats. Maybe they just needed a friend who understood them. Impossible, the merchant whispered. The Galactic Union has tried everything: force fields, neural inhibitors, behavioral modification. Nothing worked. Yeah. Well, Jade said with a wink, humans have always been good with animals. Now, how much for 10 pounds of that Rigelian mammoth steak? As the terrified merchant packaged her purchase, Jade glanced around the marketplace. She spotted 3 different beings speaking urgently into communication devices while looking in her direction. Word was spreading. Good. Her hand unconsciously moved to the small scar at the base of her skull, a reminder of how she'd ended up here, presumed dead by the Galactic Union after they'd tried to assassinate her. The Union, with its bureaucratic nonsense and disdain for primitive species like humans, had made a critical error. They'd underestimated her. Again. Then. Jade paid for the meat and led her companions away from the market, heading toward the dilapidated shuttle she now called home. As they walked, Nova suddenly growled, her bioluminescent ridges flashing bright blue, a warning sign. "What is it, girl?" Jade asked, instantly alert. The answer came in the form of a stun bolt that struck the ground mere inches from her foot. Jade dove behind a cargo container, Rex and Nova immediately taking protective positions on either side of her. "Jade Parker." A voice boomed from a loudspeaker. "By order of the Galactic Union, you are to surrender yourself immediately." Jade peered around the container to see a squad of Union security forces, their distinctive blue armor gleaming in Nexus 9's artificial light. Their weapons were drawn, but she could see the fear in their postures as they eyed Rex and Nova. "Really?" she shouted back. "After you tried to blow me up on that mining station? I'm not feeling particularly cooperative today." The squad leader stepped forward, his helmet visor hiding his species. "That was a misunderstanding. Commander Zot Varric wishes to speak with you." Jade laughed. "Zot Varric? The same commander who personally ordered my execution because I questioned the Union's mining practices on Terra Nova? Tell him he can speak to my lawyer." Oh wait, he had her arrested too. She noticed more Union forces attempting to circle around behind her. With a subtle hand signal one she'd developed over the months spent gaining the Vorgath's trust, she directed Rex toward them. The massive predator slinked away, his gray form blending surprisingly well with the shadows between buildings. "Your situation has changed," the squad leader continued, clearly trying to keep her attention. "The commander is willing to negotiate now." "I bet he is," Jade muttered. She stroked Nova's flank, feeling the creature's muscles tense in anticipation. "What do you think, Nova? Should we hear them out?" Nova's answer was a low, rumbling growl that made the security forces take an involuntary step backward. "The Vorgath are classified as extreme danger organisms," the squad leader said, his voice betraying a hint of desperation. "Whatever control you think you have over them is temporary at best. They are genetically programmed for aggression." Jade stood up slowly, keeping one hand on Nova. "That's where you are all wrong. They are not aggressive, they are protective. They are intelligent. And the Union has been slaughtering them because you are afraid of what you don't understand." From the shadows behind the security forces, Rex emerged with frightening silence for a creature his size. The squad hadn't even noticed him. "Last chance, Parker," the leader called. "Come peacefully, or we will be forced to take action." Jade pretended to consider this. "Eesh. Let me think. Go with the people who tried to kill me, or stay with my new friends who have kept me alive?" She grinned. "I think I will pass on your generous offer." With a sharp whistle from Jade, Rex pounced. Not at the security forces, but at their transport vehicle, his massive weight crushing the engine compartment. Alarms blared as the squad whirled around in panic. "Now, Nova," Jade shouted, and the female Vorgath let out a roar that seemed to shake the very air. Her bioluminescent ridges flashed in a hypnotic pattern that Jade had only seen twice before a hunting display that temporarily disoriented any beings who looked directly at it. The security forces staggered, their shots going wild. Jade used the confusion to sprint toward her shuttle, Rex abandoning the destroyed vehicle to lope alongside her. "Stop her!" someone shouted, but it was too late. Jade and her companions had reached the shuttle, its entry ramp already lowering in response to the remote trigger she'd activated. As she ran up the ramp, a stun bolt finally found its mark, grazing her shoulder. Jade stumbled but kept moving, the numbing sensation spreading down her arm. Rex and Nova bounded into the shuttle behind her, and Jade slammed the control panel to close the ramp. "They never learn," she gasped, dropping the package of meat and heading for the cockpit. Her shoulder throbbed where the stun bolt had hit her, but she ignored it as she fired up the engines. Through the viewport, she could see the security forces regrouping, some taking aim at the shuttle while others called for backup. Jade's fingers flew over the controls, bypassing the standard pre-flight checks. "Hold on, you two," she called back to Rex and Nova, who had settled themselves in the cargo area. "This might get bumpy." The shuttle lurched upward, repulsors whining in protest at the sudden demand for power. Another volley of stun bolts hit the hull, causing warning lights to flash across the control panel. "Persistent, aren't they?" Jade muttered, swinging the shuttle around and gunning the thrusters. The marketplace fell away beneath them as they rose into Nexus 9's polluted atmosphere. Her comms system crackled to life. "Unidentified shuttle, you are ordered to return to Docking Bay 12 immediately. This is your only warning." Jade glanced at her scanner. A Union patrol ship was moving to intercept her, its weapons systems powering up. "Sorry, boys," she said, though she hadn't activated her transmitter. "I have got a prior engagement." With a flick of her wrist, she activated the shuttle's one real advantage, a modified jump drive that could initiate faster than light travel much closer to a planet's gravity well than standard Union Batarian vessels. It was wildly dangerous, technically illegal, and absolutely necessary for someone in her position. The stars outside the viewport began to stretch into lines as the jump drive engaged. Jade felt the familiar pressure in her ears, the momentary sensation of being turned inside out, and then they were gone, vanished from the Nexus system before the patrol ship could lock its weapons. As the shuttle hurtled through subspace, Jade set the autopilot and moved back to check on her companions. Both Vorgath were perfectly calm, having experienced this kind of travel with her before. Nova's eyes, all four of them, watched Jade with what she'd come to recognize as concern. "I'm fine," Jade assured her, rubbing her numbed shoulder. "They barely touched me." She unwrapped the package of meat, tossing generous portions to both creatures, who caught them with terrifying precision. As they ate, Jade settled onto the floor beside them, leaning against Rex's warm flank. "Well, that could have gone better," she said. "But at least now we know for sure Zot Varric is scared. And he should be." Rex made a rumbling sound in his throat, almost like a questioning tone. "Yes, we are still going through with the plan," Jade answered, as if the creature had actually asked. "The Union needs to learn they can't just exploit whatever planets and species they want. And now we have their attention." She pulled out her datapad and began typing a message, one that would be delivered to every major news outlet in the galactic arm. The headline would read, "Human Survivor Controls Vorgath, Demands Union Accountability." That ought to cause quite a stir, she thought with a smile. The image of Commander Zot Varric's face when he saw the broadcast would be priceless. What the Union didn't know, what Jade herself was only beginning to understand, was that her connection with the Vorgath went far deeper than simple animal training. There was something about human brainwaves, something unique that the mighty Galactic Union with all its advanced technology had missed. Jade Parker, presumed dead but very much alive, was going to use that discovery to change everything. Senior Science Officer Kraxel had never been so terrified. Sitting across from Commander Zot Varric in the briefing room of the Union flagship Indomitable, He struggled to keep his facial tentacles from curling inward, a sign of extreme distress in his species. "You are telling me," Zotvarik said, each word dripping with barely contained rage, "that the reason this human can control the most dangerous predators in the galaxy is because of music?" Kraxel's secondary breathing sacs inflated nervously. "Not exactly music, Commander. It's more complex than that. Our analysis of Jade Parker's neural patterns shows an unusual harmonic structure. Humans call it theta-gamma coupling, but it's far more advanced in her case." "Spare me the technical babble," Zotvarik snapped. "The woman is broadcasting her demands across every communication channel in 3 sectors. The Council is in an uproar." On the view screen behind the commander, Jade Parker's face smiled confidently as her recorded message played on repeat for too long. "The Galactic Union has exploited vulnerable planets and species under the guise of progress. The attempted genocide of the Vorgath is just one example. I demand a full public inquiry into Union mining operations on 57 planets, including Earth's colony on Terra Nova. You have 48 hours to respond, or I release everything I know about Project Nightfall." Zotvarik turned off the screen with a violent gesture. How did she even survive the mining station explosion? "We confirmed the blast yield." Lieutenant Pax, who had been standing silently by the door, cleared his throat. "We have analyzed the station's security recordings from just before detonation. It appears Parker discovered the bombs and, well, you should see for yourself." The view screen flickered back to life, showing grainy footage of Jade running through a corridor. She stopped at what appeared to be a maintenance hatch, punched in a code, and disappeared inside. Moments later, the recording ended in static and bright light. "The maintenance hatch led to an emergency escape pod," Pax explained. "A model so old it wasn't even on the station's official schematics. Our intelligence missed it." "And the Vorgath?" Zotvarik demanded. "How did she find them? How is she controlling them?" Kraxel brought up a star chart on his datapad. "After escaping the explosion, her pod's trajectory suggests she crash-landed on Vorga Prime. By all accounts, she should have been dead within hours. No one survives on the Vorgath homeworld. Yet she walks," Pax repeated his phrase from days earlier. "The neural connection is fascinating, actually," Kraxel continued, momentarily forgetting his fear in the excitement of scientific discovery. "Humans have a unique brain structure that—" "Can it be replicated?" Zotvarik interrupted. "Can we control the Vorgath too?" Kraxel's tentacles drooped. "No, Commander. We have tried simulating the neural patterns, but there's something organic about the human connection. It can't be synthesized." The commander stood up and paced the room, his tall frame casting shifting shadows as he moved. "This changes everything. If humans can control apex predators throughout the galaxy." "Not all humans," Kraxel clarified. "Our tests suggest Parker has an exceptionally rare neural configuration. Perhaps one in several million humans might possess similar capabilities." "That's still thousands of potential threats," Zotvarik muttered. "The Council will demand action." "Sir," Pax said hesitantly, "what about her demands?" "Project Nightfall is classified at the highest levels. If she releases those files—" Zotvarik stopped pacing. How could she possibly know about Nightfall? That project was terminated years ago. "Unknown, sir. But the fact that she mentioned it by name suggests that we have a leak," the commander finished grimly. "Find it. Meanwhile, prepare my shuttle. I'm going to meet with Parker personally." Kraxel's tentacles writhed in alarm. "Commander, the danger is considerable." "Yes," Zotvarik acknowledged, "but so are the stakes. Officer Kraxel, you are coming with me. Your knowledge of Vorgath biology might prove useful." As the science officer followed the commander from the briefing room, he couldn't help but think that this mission would end with him becoming Vorgath food. Not for the first time, Kraxel questioned his career choices. 3 systems away, aboard her modified shuttle, Jade Parker smiled as she watched her message being broadcast across the galaxy. The media was having a field day, especially after she'd released selected documents detailing the Union's unsanctioned mining operations on protected worlds. "What do you think, Rex?" she asked the massive Vorgath lounging nearby. "Will they cave, or will they try something stupid?" Rex lifted his enormous head, all four eyes blinking in sequence, a gesture Jade had come to recognize as thoughtful consideration. He made a low, rumbling sound. "Yeah, you are right," Jade agreed, as if understanding perfectly. "Zotvarik is too proud. He will try something dramatic." Nova, who had been grooming her front claws, suddenly perked up, her sensory ridges glowing bright blue. She moved to the shuttle's viewport, staring intently into the darkness of space. "What is it, girl?" Jade joined her, peering out but seeing nothing unusual among the stars. "You sense something." The female Vorgath made a series of clicking sounds with her secondary jaws, a communication method Jade was still learning to interpret. Whatever Nova was trying to say, it clearly had her agitated. Jade checked her scanner. Nothing showed up within detection range, but she had learned to trust the Vorgath's senses over technology. "Something's coming. Both of you stay alert but non-threatening unless I signal otherwise. Let's not provoke a firefight if we can avoid it." She moved to the cockpit and began powering up the shuttle's engines, not to flee, but to have them ready. As she worked, her mind drifted back to how this all began, on the day she should have died. The mining station explosion had been devastating, but the ancient escape pod had protected her barely. When she'd crash-landed on Vorga Prime, her body broken and the pod in flames, she had fully expected to die. The planet's atmosphere was breathable, but its surface was the hunting ground of the most feared predators in the galaxy. They had come quickly, attracted by the crash. Two adult Vorgath, curious about the strange object that had fallen from their sky. Jade, trapped in the wreckage and unable to move her legs, had done the only thing she could think of. She sang an old Earth lullaby her grandmother had taught her, the notes wavering as pain threatened to overwhelm her. To her astonishment, the Vorgath had stopped their advance, their bioluminescent ridges pulsing in time with her melody. They had listened, heads tilted, as if trying to understand. When she had finally lost consciousness, she expected to never wake again. Instead, she had opened her eyes to find herself in a cave, her wounds roughly tended to, with the two Vorgath standing guard at the entrance. Somehow, impossibly, they had recognized her as a sentient being worth protecting. The weeks that followed had been a revelation. As she slowly healed, Jade discovered that the Vorgath responded to certain patterns in her brainwaves, patterns that manifested when she sang, when she focused her thoughts in particular ways. It wasn't mind control, not exactly. It was more like communication, understanding, a neural bridge between species that should never have been able to connect. And what she learned through that connection had horrified her. The Union's campaign against the Vorgath wasn't about protecting colonies from dangerous predators, as they claimed. It was about eliminating the one species that could detect and track the rare mineral compounds used in Project Nightfall, the Union's classified planet killer weapon. A ping from the shuttle's scanner jolted Jade back to the present. A Union diplomatic vessel had just dropped out of FTL travel nearby, small enough not to be threatening, but unmistakably official. "Here we go," she murmured. Her comms system activated as the vessel hailed her. "Jade Parker." A familiar voice crackled through the speaker. "This is Commander Zotvarik. I request permission to board for negotiations." Jade raised an eyebrow. "The last time we met, you tried to have me executed without trial. Give me one good reason why I should let you anywhere near me." "Because I'm unarmed," came the reply. "And because I have brought someone who can verify your claims about the Vorgath. A neutral scientific observer." Jade glanced at Rex and Nova, who were both watching her intently. "Your observer wouldn't happen to be one of your military scientists working on bioweapons against the Vorgath, would they?" A pause. "Officer Kraxel is a xenobiologist specializing in predator species. He has no connection to any weapons programs." "Right," Jade laughed. "And I'm the Queen of Mars. Look, Zotvarik, I'm not interested in being dissected in the name of science. Either the Union publicly acknowledges its crimes and ends the hunting of Vorgath, or I release everything I have on Project Nightfall. Those are my terms. Parker, be reasonable. Zot Varric's voice took on an urgent tone. What you are asking would destabilize the entire Union. Millions of lives depend on the current power structure. You should have thought of that before you started illegally mining inhabited worlds and committing genocide, Jade replied coolly. You have 24 hours left. Use them wisely. She moved to terminate the communication, but Zot Varric spoke quickly. Wait, what if I could offer you an official position? As a liaison between humans and the Union. Your abilities with the Vorgath are unprecedented. They could be invaluable. Jade paused, her finger hovering over the disconnect button. Go on. A full amnesty for your actions. A seat on the Xenobiology Council. And a protected sanctuary for the Vorgath on 3 uninhabited systems of your choosing. In exchange, you help us understand your connection with them. Nova made a warning sound, her ridges flashing rapidly. Rex moved closer to Jade, his massive body tensed for action. They don't trust you, Jade translated. Can't say I blame them. Then let me prove my sincerity, Zot Varric replied. I'm sending over an information packet, evidence that the Union Council has already voted to suspend Project Nightfall permanently. It was my recommendation. Jade's console beeped as the data transfer completed. She scanned the documents quickly, her eyes widening. They appeared genuine official council minutes, signed orders, verification codes that would be nearly impossible to fake. Why would you do this? She asked suspiciously. Because you were right, Zot Varric admitted, his voice heavy. About the mining operations. About the Vorgath. The Union has lost its way in certain respects. But that doesn't mean the entire system needs to collapse. Jade considered this. I will need more than words, Commander. I want to see action. Then allow me to board with Officer Craxel. See for yourself that we are sincere. She looked at Rex and Nova, who had relaxed slightly but remained alert. What do you think? Should we trust them? Rex made a low, grumbling sound that Jade had come to interpret as cautious acceptance. Nova was more hesitant, her ridges still pulsing with warning colors, but she didn't object outright. Fine, Jade decided. You can board, but only you and the scientist. Any weapons, any tricks, and my friends here will consider it a hunting opportunity. Clear. Crystal clear, Zot Varric responded, relief evident in his voice. Jade guided her shuttle alongside the diplomatic vessel, extending the docking tube. As she waited by the airlock, Rex and Nova positioned themselves behind her, a show of force that wouldn't be lost on the visitors. The airlock cycled open to reveal Commander Zot Varric, his imposing height somewhat diminished by the cautious stoop of his shoulders. Behind him cowered a smaller alien with facial tentacles that were curled tightly against his head. Commander, Jade nodded coolly. And you must be Officer Craxel. The tentacled alien made a strangled sound as he noticed the 2 Vorgath. They are bigger than I expected, he managed to squeak. Relax, Jade said with a slight smile. They only eat people I don't like. Zot Varric stepped forward, his eyes fixed on Jade rather than the predators. I must admit, seeing it in person is remarkable. How do you do it? That's what we are here to discuss, isn't it? Jade gestured for them to follow her into the shuttle's main cabin. But first, I want specifics on this sanctuary you are proposing, and guarantees for all human colonies affected by your mining operations. As they sat down, Zot Varric stiffly, Craxel perched on the edge of his seat as if ready to bolt. Nova moved to stand beside Jade, while Rex circled behind the visitors, effectively trapping them. Fascinating, Craxel murmured, his scientific curiosity momentarily overcoming his fear. The coordination between them suggests higher cognitive functions than we previously documented. Are they responding to verbal commands or something else? Something else, Jade confirmed. Officer Craxel, what do you know about human neural oscillations? The scientist's tentacles unfurled slightly in surprise. Basic patterns only. Our research suggests humans have unusually chaotic brainwave structures compared to most sentient species. Not chaotic, Jade corrected. Complex. Layered. When I was stranded on Vorga Prime, I discovered something by accident. The Vorgath don't just hunt by sight or smell, they perceive neural patterns, brain signatures. And they are particularly sensitive to the theta-gamma coupling that humans produce naturally. Zotvarik leaned forward. Are you saying they recognized you as what? A potential ally? More like they recognized me as something unique, Jade said. Something worth investigating rather than just eating. And when I began to intentionally modulate my thought patterns through music, through focused meditation, they responded. We built a connection. This could revolutionize interspecies communication, Kraxel breathed, his tentacles now fully extended in excitement. If we could train more humans with this capability. That's not what this is about, Jade interrupted sharply. This isn't about turning the Vorgath into tools or weapons for the Union. It's about recognizing them as an intelligent species with rights. The same goes for the natives of all those planets you have been stripping bare. Zotvarik's expression hardened. The Union's expansion requires resources, Parker. That's a reality of governance. Then find another way, Jade said simply. Because I wasn't bluffing about Project Nightfall. I have the complete technical specifications, testing data, everything. One data burst, and every resistance group in the galaxy will know how to detect the weapons platforms you have been secretly deploying. The commander's eyes narrowed. How did you get that information? Jade smiled. You'd be surprised what people will tell a woman everyone thinks is dead, especially when she shows up with 2 apex predators at her side. After a tense moment, Zotvarik sighed. Very well. The sanctuary will be established as requested, and the affected colonies will receive reparations and protection status. But in exchange, you will serve as an advisor to the Union on Vorgath matters, and you will surrender all data regarding Project Nightfall. Half the data, Jade countered. The rest stays in secure storage as insurance against future misunderstandings. You drive a hard bargain for a species that only achieved spaceflight a century ago, Zotvarik muttered. We are fast learners, Jade replied with a smile. And we are very, very good at surviving things that should kill us, as you have discovered. The negotiations continued for hours, with Kraxel occasionally interjecting questions about the Vorgath that Jade answered selectively. By the time they reached an agreement, the scientist had filled 3 datapads with notes, and even Zotvarik seemed genuinely interested in the neural connection Jade had described. As the commander prepared to leave, he paused at the airlock. You know, Parker, when we first encountered humans, the Council dismissed your species as primitive newcomers. It seems we may have underestimated you. It wouldn't be the first time, Jade said, and probably not the last. After the Union representatives had departed, Jade sat between Rex and Nova, scratching both creatures behind their sensory ridges. Well, that went better than expected. Though I'm still not sure we can trust them completely. Rex made a rumbling sound of agreement. Don't worry, Jade assured him. The insurance policy I mentioned? It's not just the Nightfall data. It's you two. The galaxy now knows that humans can connect with the most feared predators in existence. That's not something they will forget anytime soon. Nova pressed her massive head against Jade's shoulder in what had become a gesture of affection. I know, girl, Jade said softly. I miss home too. But after we make sure the sanctuary is established properly, maybe we can visit Earth. I think my planet would be very interested in meeting you both. As her shuttle drifted among the stars, Jade Parker, the woman who had died and returned, who had tamed the untamable, smiled at the thought of what would come next. The Galactic Union had just learned an important lesson about humanity. Underestimate them at your peril. Because humans don't just survive, they adapt, they connect, they change the rules of the game. And sometimes they make friends with the monsters.